Anyway, let's talk about the democratic socialism rocket ship. Oh, my God.
Holy Toledo. Seem to be doing considerably better than they used to be, and they have the chance to knock off, in fact, Democratic incumbents in Congress. And part of the reason for that, why we're seeing these Democratic socialists having such good chances or outright winning nominations, is take a look here. Net favorability among Dems. Democratic Socialists of America, look at that. A plus 17-point net favorability rating among Democrats. That is actually better. That is better than how congressional Democrats are viewed by Democrats at just plus 4 points. So no wonder that Democratic Socialists have such a good chance, because simply put, they are a better brand at this point than Democrats in Congress.
Among Democrats, it's interesting to see who they like more. All right, and you've used this number before. I always find this fascinating. When you compare socialism to capitalism, how are they doing right now?
Yeah, how are they doing right now among Democrats? You see this Democratic Socialists of America more positive than congressional Democrats. And I'll tell you, take a look at the trend line, the favorable rating among Democrats on socialism.
This is a big part of, listen. This is a big part of what I wanted to happen. I want people to associate good governance with democratic socialism. Okay? Obviously, that's just one piece of the fucking puzzle. It's not about like rehabilitating the brand of the Democratic Party in the way that a lot of people suggest. As a matter of fact, it's making a clear distinction between do nothing Democrats and business as usual Democrats and people who are being elected into office as democratic socialists. Okay? Because for a big part of the American population, there's still tremendous amounts of residual Red Scare propaganda that makes them fear this brand, that makes them fear this ideology. Okay? This is why sewer socialism, I think, is very successful, like municipal socialism at the municipality level, and having that be associated with a very different kind of governance. Because Americans are terrified since the Reagan era of big government initiatives, Google Gaga government, big government. Like, they have starved the beast. They have no confidence that their elected representatives will ever be responsive to their needs, their desires, their demands. And we have to penetrate the collective consciousness that has determined that socialism is a scary thing. That's the first step, okay? And that's why I think people like Zohran Mamdani and everything that they do that is seen as a positive is good for this movement overall. It's not the end goal. The end goal is not to rebrand the Democratic Party. The end goal is not to engage in entryism to the Democratic Party. The end goal is not to rehabilitate the Democratic Party. The end goal is to create a more responsive politics in this country, okay? A politics that centers the working class and its needs over the interests of corporations and profit-seeking behavior. But at this stage in the United States of America, we're seeing a lot of success in deep blue districts and blue neighborhoods, and that's great. But there's still a long way to fucking go. All right? You're dog-eating people into the DNC. Yes, exactly. Or rather, I'm using the largest outlet of legitimacy and the largest platform that socialists have ever had in American history, in contemporary American history,
doing a rally
to preach the gospel of socialism. Anyway, Zohran was also asked, bad empanada supporters are so cringe, can we just say it? Yeah, I mean, they're irrelevant. You don't even have to bring that shit up. For the most part, Twitter is not real life, obviously, and a lot of what you see on Twitter is either bots or it's not like a serious movement that has sincere demands. A lot of people, I think, have recognized they're powerless in the face of unchanging systems. That's number one. And number two, they have not only have they recognized their powerlessness, but also they're just sitting around and hoping for a spontaneous revolution. It's not going to happen. If you want mass politics, which is what socialism is, you have to speak the language of the masses, you have to speak to the desires of the masses, and you have to go where the masses are. You can't just sit around at home and keep chirping from your living room, from your basement, about how people just simply do not understand Lenin. Okay? It's not just bad empanada people. There's a lot of young leftists popping up that genuinely view you as an incrementalist electoralist. This isn't an accusation. I'm warning you about what I see. Great. That's fine. A lot of the newcomers, here are going to have views that are uncompromising. That's normal. Many of you used to be this way. Many of you used to be reactionary, and then you found socialism, and then all of a sudden you had black and white opinions about how to best move and best navigate in the space of American politics. That's normal. Baby leftists will always have that kind of attitude. And then they grow up, and then they engage in activism, they engage in organizing, they talk to other people, they try to convert other people, they try to get other people to understand their worldview, and then they slowly move into a much more reasonable and a much more pragmatic stance. That's fine. That always happens. Okay? I have never and will never say that electoralism is the only route. It's one of many routes. We have to exhaust all readily available options. And one of those options, especially when the opposition party is unbelievably weak, is to take advantage of the massive platform that it offers, especially at a time when there are no political organizations that are as robust as the Democratic Socialists of America is. No political organization, no left political organization in contemporary American society has seen the level of success and seen the number of actual elected representatives and the number of actual paying members as the Democratic Socialists of America has. Okay? And the best pathway to increasing the numbers of self-identifying, self-described Democratic Socialists is through election success, through electoral success. For many Americans, post-2016, they arrived at socialism because of Bernie Sanders' insurgency run against Hillary Rodham Clinton, where Hillary Clinton's establishment Democratic approach was met with someone from their left flank in the biggest platform that they ever could have actually had, socialism could have ever had in America, right? A lot of people first encountered socialism for that reason. They were like, oh my God, there's a different way of doing politics, a one that actually I agree with. Now, many of those people have moved far beyond Bernie Sanders and actively fucking talk about how he sucks. They have forgotten that their journey started at some point. And that journey started in this run, in this 2016 run. So my goal is to get to unlock the potential of so many others, the ideological potential of so many others to go on this same exact ideological journey that a lot of people went through, in this exact same way. That's it. That's also part of the reason why, although I have my personal disagreements with Bernie Sanders on a lot of issues, especially when it comes to foreign policy and especially when it comes to Israel, I still understand the role that he plays in this movement and has played in this movement. Okay? You're not going to always agree with 100% of the things that people are saying, that other socialists are saying. But a big part of successful organizing revolves around keeping a coalition together, regardless of your disagreements. And it's one of the most frustrating elements of any kind of socialist organizing, that there are so many people that go, no, my position is the moral one, is the correct one, and I refuse to budge, and I refuse to try to understand where others are coming from, and I refuse to ever align with these people if there's even a little bit of ideological differences in opinion or a difference in tactics overall. Because there's so many fucking Marx-Leninists, for example, that look at what I'm doing and say, fuck you, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a sheepdog for the Democratic Party. You want to take the revolutionary potential of the masses and then filter it back into a comfortable neoliberal party like the Democratic Party, a bourgeois party, a capitalist party. And to them, I always say, what revolutionary potential? Is there a successful Vanguard initiative right now that I'm actually standing in opposition to? No, of course not. I see the material realities. I see the overall, the overall mass politics in this country and where the masses see themselves as, and I try to shake them from their stupor. I try to foment class consciousness amongst the masses. We are all doing the same thing, by the way. We are all, at the end of the day, doing the exact same thing. We're just posting. I'm posting a little bit more efficiently than you are, And I've seen a lot more success in my posting than you have in your posting. And I think at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what makes you mad. Because that's what we're doing. We're all posting. A self-described Leninist and getting mad at using all available tools, ivory tower dogmatism. Yes, there is very little class consciousness in this country. The working class do not see themselves as members of the proletariat, but temporarily embarrassed millionaires and billionaires. Okay? That's it. So as it stands currently, we have to foment class consciousness in this country. And some people are putting the cart before the horse. They're saying, no, you can only do that with a communist party. And yet there are a million communist parties in this country. They have never reached viability. They've never reached the masses. And that's not because of people like myself standing in opposition to them. I don't. There's something that I think, there's something in this. It's a never-ending, it's a never-ending struggle. It's a never-ending issue on the left. The people that can't figure out the perfect method, which, by the way, I'm not saying mine is perfect, okay? I'm not saying that at all. Alternatives could be far better. I will never stand in opposition to them, but you also can't just fucking assume that your posting on Twitter is the most successful way to change people's minds. That's what's so frustrating, because for so many, there is this supposedly untapped revolutionary potential in the masses here in the United States of America. So why are you, instead of broadening your horizons, why are you a revolutionary, right? Someone who is engaging in practice, why are you focusing your efforts on someone like myself rather than the rest of the fucking working class that's waiting to be armed and ready to go and be a part of a militant vanguard? Why do you hyper-focus your efforts on someone like myself? If this revolutionary potential exists out there, don't you think that there is a far more robust and far more productive outlet? Don't you feel like you could just go to the masses and convert them? What makes you think yelling at a fucking Twitch streamer for trying their own method that might be different than yours, even if the goals are still the same? Why do you think yelling at a fucking Twitch streamer is actually going to foment the revolution, is going to bring about the revolution, is going to foment the class consciousness? This is what I always say, because my goal is to go out to the people that don't agree with me and slowly but surely, hopefully if they are charitable in seeing my worldview, slowly but surely change their perspectives. And I've seen a lot of success in this, right? I've seen a lot of success in this over the last decade or so. And I see a lot of success in the Democratic Socialists of America doing exactly this as well. And yet, a good deal of my time nowadays is spent having to fucking convince ultras and wreckers that I'm not their enemy. And the more I give any the more I give any attention to that, the more galvanized they feel about how they're doing the right thing. Because in their minds, it's like yelling at a fucking Twitch streamer is the most successful way to radicalize the working class. That's not how this works. You've seen a lot of success during your lifetime, huh, Unc? Yes, I have. I mean, this community and its size and its impact is living proof of that, right?
With this slate of congressional candidates that you've endorsed and Bernie Sanders in Brooklyn, these are contested races. There's some early voting data to suggest that the electorate that's voting so far is considerably older than the electorate a year ago that helped elect you and propel you to victory in that primary. There is a risk here. It's a pretty high leverage bet. You've gone out on a limb. You didn't have to endorse in these races. You really didn't to basically take on a bunch of incumbents and possibly sort of risk your own political capital if a bunch of them don't do well. Are you prepared for what that's going to signal to the people that oppose you in the city, the interests that want to see you go down if that happens?
You know, I think there will always be risk when it comes to fighting for working people. And I made a promise to New Yorkers that I would use every tool at my disposal to deliver on the agenda to transform the most expensive city in the United States of America into one that's affordable to the people who helped to build it. And these endorsements are part of that, because you cannot win that agenda alone. And in Daria Lisa, Claire, and Brad, I see partners who would not only be fighting for that same agenda in D.C., but also be side by side here as we fight for it in New York City. And, you know,
What is this? Every vanguard is insufficient until it isn't. I know, I'm glad you remind me constantly, because we always have new people. All the rightoids achieve purity only in decline, a la the current moment, is because they don't feel like they belong there and they understand the need to work to do that. The worst part is they are like seriously ideologically fucking the new generation of leftists, largely because the orgs like DSA don't enforce ideology or reading requirements or reading level requirements. Hence the need to support things like PSL. Okay, well, PSL is probably not the best time. It's probably not the best time to bring up PSL, you know? Maybe wait a week.
I understand that New Yorkers are facing a number of things at the same time. We not only have had the Knicks' historic run and an NBA championship, we also have the World Cup, and then all of that at the beginning of a summer that feels like one we'll never forget. And so we have a few days left of early voting. I'm hopeful today we saw more younger voters come out. We saw more voters in general start to come out and vote. And we know that Election Day is on Tuesday. And so I'm going to be doing everything that I can to let New Yorkers know that.
Okay, this was not a good answer. I mean, this is just a classic Zoran answer. He didn't like actually answer it. That the question just said, I'm doing my own thing. I'm focusing on my own mission.
Look at this. In 2010, they were about equal. 50% had a favorable view of socialism. 51% said the same about capitalism. But capitalism has absolutely fallen through the floor. Look at this. It's now just 42% of Democrats who have a favorable view of capitalism. Socialism, on the other hand, up like a rocket. Look at this. 2 in 3 Democrats have a favorable view of socialism. So socialism is on the rise among Democrats. Capitalism is on the decline among Democrats. And again, this is part of the longer-term trend in which we are seeing Democratic socialists doing considerably better among Democrats electing a mayor right here in New York City, for example.
And as we said, there are primaries next week with Democratic socialists, self-proclaimed, on the ballot. What are the prediction markets saying about how they may do?
Yeah, this to me is one of the more stunning trends, right, that I have seen in covering politics over the last 15, 16 years. And if you believe the prediction markets, it's not going to just stop suddenly. It may extend into next week because just
like this is why I used to always reflect on like people who call social democrats in 2016 the people who were responsible for the death of Rosa Luxemburg, pure LARP, pure and utter LARP. And the reason for why is because so many of these people, like from the perspective of like the broader American working class, like they think social democrats are literally fucking USSR style commies. Okay, they want to do Soviet style centralized control over the economy. Most Americans don't understand any of this shit. Okay, now that doesn't mean that social democracy is the end all be all, but that should help you identify how to, better message. That should help you identify where the fucking, overall perspective of the masses is when it comes to things that pertain to social.
President who at this point looks like an underdog compared to a Democratic socialist, and then you may get a Democratic incumbent in northern Manhattan get knocked off. That's closer to a 50-50 race. But the bottom line is this. Next week in New York may be a very good one for Democratic socialists. Mayor Mamdani endorsing them. His political star is rising, and he may bring a few Democratic socialists along with him and put them in a Congress.
I think you have to give respect to the people in the DSA movement, the Democratic Socialist movement. They've been winning elections around the country. You see that happen in New York. We just saw it happen in Washington, D.C. We saw a congressional race in New Jersey where nobody saw that coming. So you're looking around the country and you're seeing the energy of the Democratic Party coming out of this part of the left. Mm-hmm. What he's right about is that whoever the Democrats field in 2028, they're not going to just be able to run on, let's go back to the way things were. People are going to have to push forward into something that's brand new, and it's going to have to be big, bold ideas that are going to make meaningful changes.
Bro, I never thought in my lifetime I would see a CNN panelist straight up on primetime television be like, you got to give respect to the Democratic Socialists. What a crazy fucking time. And then people see this momentum and think, no, that means it's over. That means it's been perfectly captured by corporate interests, okay? It's been perfectly captured by corporate interests. It's over. We have to find something else now immediately. Like some people genuinely think socialism is about not a mass movement necessarily, about normalizing this concept, but instead is like supposed to be gatekept. It's supposed to be some hipster shit. Stop being a fucking lifestylist, ideological hipster. Jesus Christ. We want motherfuckers to say, no, this is good. It's the same with the anti-Zionism. People literally were like, oh, dude, these people came on board too late. These people came on board too late, both with socialism and anti-Zionism. I was fucking there. I was there for a decade plus. You don't see me fucking behaving this way. Why the fuck are you? You learned about these concepts last week. Shut the fuck up.
I'm not convinced that all those changes have to come from the most progressive or left part of the party. I think centrists ought to be able to come up with some pretty bold ideas. Because I don't know if you say to someone, women only get 2% of venture capital in America, we need to double that or triple that. Is that a progressive idea or is that a centrist idea? I don't know. It's an idea that makes things better. Every African American entrepreneur in the country has raised less money than Donald Trump made off of crypto last year. Right? We can fix that if we want to. So, but that, I'm not sure where that sits on the ideological spectrum. And so people are going to have to come up with big ideas that affect real people.
And you do point out that we're seeing more self-proclaimed democratic socialist candidates finding more success across the country. What do you make of that? How are you seeing that?
Well, I just think there's an overall kind of upset in the American political environment. Folk are kind of tired of business as usual, and they're reaching for other sorts of languages, other sorts of solutions, because the way in which we lived our lives so far, the general conclusion is that everything is broken. And so folk are reaching for new languages, new ways, more inspired ways.
Yeah, because it is, by the way. Like, that's not people just like arriving at the wrong opinion or something when things are actually good. Why do these people not realize how good things actually are? Like, that's not the position. That's not the case, right? Things are bad. And things are so bad that in the most propagandized nation, Americans have arrived at the correct conclusion by accident almost. That's how bad things truly are, that people are literally arriving at socialism off of just straight up the contradictions. Well, that and a lot of organizing and a lot of advocacy, let's be real, a shit ton of organizing and advocacy, and also a decent number of electoral successes.
Of trying to respond to the conditions of everyday ordinary folk. So I think if we don't get caught up in labels, if we don't get caught up with shorthands, it's not progressive or centrist or conservative to say that working people should make enough money to provide for their households and send their kids to college. Mm-hmm. It's not progressive to say that folks shouldn't go broke because they're sick. It's not progressive to say, right, that basic education should be every human being deserves it, no matter the color of your skin or where your zip code is, right? So I think let's get beyond the labels and just get to what everyday ordinary folk are experiencing on the ground, and maybe we can actually address some of the issues that American people are facing.
I want to go to this sound from another prominent voice in the Democratic Party, former President Barack Obama, and he had a similar message about the need for our politics to look toward the future. Here's what he said.
The exhibits in the center are not meant to evoke nostalgia for some gauzy bygone era, some unattainable past that we can dream about and say, oh, we miss you, Barack. They're meant to remind us of who we can be.
Yeah, pussy 3 about to drop.
And your book does a lot of soul searching about this quest, right, to be a more perfect union in America. And I'm wondering how you view the president's comments.
Well, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. We heard complete sentences for, I shouldn't say that, right? I thought it was a breath of fresh air. Look, America, in my view, suffers from what I call a divided soul. We imagine ourselves at once as a beacon of freedom and as a white republic. We can't hold those two things together without contradiction, without depositing a kind of madness at the heart of the country. And what I think, what I hope, what I pray, is that in this moment when we're so divided, that we can actually make the choice to be a beacon of freedom. We can debate what that is, but we cannot hold the view that some people ought to play minor bit parts in the nation's history, in the nation's present and future, while others sit at center stage. That I'm not an object of charity, that racial justice isn't a philanthropic enterprise, that the country doesn't belong to a specific set of folk, that we have to ignore the history so that we can be who we think we are without judgment. Now, I think if we're going to get to where President Obama just described, we're going to have to tell the truth about who we are, what we've done, so that we can release ourselves into a better future.
How do you see it, Lulu?
That's a lot.
I know.
That's like I mean, there's an entire world in that statement.
And I think it does hold special meaning today. We should note on Juneteenth.
Yes, it does indeed. This is at the heart of actually what we're experiencing now. I agree with you that what people are looking for is radical change. I think Donald Trump was an expression of that, actually, on the right. I think the debate on the left about moderates versus progressive, I agree with you. I think that those labels have ceased to have meaning. If you asked a regular person, even though we live in a highly partisan world, right, where it's red hat, blue hat, but if you ask a regular people...
How convenient. Coming off the heels of a bunch of analysis that shows polling data that suggests more and more Democrats are now identifying themselves as democratic socialists. You have an entire panel of centrists going, labels we're all a part of the same team, right? I mean, who cares? Come on. What America needs is more centrism, more reasonable, moderate changes.
They hold so many contradicting opinions that could fall on all sorts of different spectrums. At the heart of this, though, we are a country that I believe many people think has lost its way. That we are a country at the moment that doesn't know what it should be in the world and inside the United States. Do we want to be a country that stands for democracy, that stands for freedom? And what does that mean? What does freedom of speech mean? Republicans have a certain view of that, and Democrats have a different view. These are fundamental differences that I think labels don't necessarily address, but I do think our next leader, whether they be from the right or from the left, is going to have to find a new language that includes more people in that debate. I think the very narrow lanes that both parties have driven down is not going to satisfy this electorate.